Hi, I'm John. Welcome to Stupid Fast RC. Today I am doing a quick and dirty repair on a U-Tour 8E from BSD Racing, with special thanks to our friends from Hobbytech. Hi, welcome to Stupid Fast RC. In the spirit of build, crash, drive, repeat, today I'm going to show you how to quickly do a repair on a U-Tour. Now, this is our U-Tour. It's from BSD Racing. Well, that's the body, and this is the rest of it. And if you've been following along with us, you will see that we did this to this U-Tour in an attempt to see if we could make it travel further through the air or make the biggest jump up against the eRevo. And didn't do a bad job, but we only got one jump away and it smashed. So what happens next? Now, this mainly this video is for people who are sort of like at the beginning of the hobby, and I want to just really show you the difference between a toy grade car and a hobby grade car. Now, in a toy grade car, you're not going to be able to get parts. This is a toy grade car up here. I will show you. Toy grade cars look really different. They're built differently. Something that you might buy in a huge department store, and generally you can't get parts for them. They're quite a bit less expensive than a hobby grade car, so you might find, and it depends where you live of course, that might be under $100, and this would probably be over $100, $200 to sort of $400 mark, or up to $1,000 even, depending what it is. So that basically means there's available, and you could check this as well. You want to check this before you start, that you can get parts for it. And that's pretty important, because with a car like this you are going to cause some damage and you are going to need to repair it, and that's the big difference. So that's more a disposable thing, and this is not. Our friends from Hobbytech lent us this car and we broke it, and now we have the spare parts. So I've got a couple of axle carriers here, at least I think that's the correct term for them. However, the good news is they've got them. They come in pairs, even though we've only broken one. And what we will need is some tools. Now, you can also buy these tools on from your local hobby supplier. Hobbytech have them, and we've also got a bunch of drivers for undoing a lot smaller screws. Hang on, I'll get one out. Look a lot like that, and screwdrivers, etc. So been doing this for a long time, so we've got a lot of tools. So let's get into it and just show you how easy it is. And I think that's the other thing that's really important about that, from where I'm coming from, is basically it teaches you something. It teaches you to fix things, it teaches you to repair things, and you learn something. It's much more than just a toy. It's a toy that's an education process as well, and I think that's really important. It teaches you to upgrade, and that's the other thing as well. If you get one of these cars that has got, you know, bigger motors, bigger batteries, that sort of things, you can experiment with things and learn. And I think that's the gap, that's the difference, that's why you do it. Okay, so enough said. This is the offending wheel. As you can see, it's kind of floppy, and because it's broken. The first thing I'm going to do here is take off this wheel. A lot of these cars, all the wheels, nuts undo in the same direction, but if you've got a more advanced car with a bigger engine, sometimes twin engines, the wheel nuts come off in opposite directions. So just so you can see there, this has broken away from the top here. So that just shows you what's happened, and that's the carrier that we're going to replace. So the first thing you need to do is take a look and work out what you need to undo. And it's always good to undo the bare minimum, because you don't want to be, the more stuff that you take off, the more you're going to have to put back. And sometimes, I mean, I know for sure that early in this hobby for me, I was in the habit of taking lots of things apart and then realizing later on that I actually went too far, and that there was a quicker way of doing it. So it's just really experience, but you won't learn unless you do it. Now, one of the other things that I've got a couple of these trays. They're magnetic trays, and they're really good for holding the bolts. And I've got some bolts from another job that I haven't finished. That's what happens when you get too many jobs on a go. So it's a good idea to put those bolts in that tray. So this is an important way to check that you've got all the bolts. I've just taken the retaining screw out of the other side. Now you don't always know how these things work, but you get better at it as you go. So I've taken a retaining screw out of this side, and I'm just going to use a piece of wire to push that axle through far enough to grab it. It's still pretty slippery, I might have to use some pliers. No, there we go. So there you go, I've got that little pin out, and now that's the axle. So this is a dog bone, that's called a dog bone for obvious reasons. And once I take the screw out, so you'll see this is a pretty quick repair. It will be if I ever get the right tools. Oh, and also use the right tools, more to the point. One thing I'll say about tools is that you should pay more for your tools and get the good ones. The reason is that you'll always regret having cheap tools, but you'll never regret buying expensive tools. If you're going to use them, and the fact that you're buying them tends to say to me that you are going to use them, then you should pay the right amount of money for them and get good ones. Now, one of the things I'm going to have to check here is that there's not a right and a left, and that they are identical. In this case, that is true. There's no right or left. They're actually the same, so that's good because that'll just make it a little bit simpler. I'm not quite there yet. I haven't quite got it all apart because this axle here, I need to push this pin out. Oh, like that, and it's fallen to the bottom of the tray, which isn't very helpful. In fact, I'm losing control of my stuff here a little bit. Then this just slides off and the axle pulls through, and I've taken a bearing with it, but because the new one actually has bearings already, I don't have to worry about that. I probably should give this a bit of a clean with a bit of cloth. It's always helpful to give the whole car a bit of a clean beforehand. Poke this through back the way it came. The actual lock nut goes back on, pin goes back in. This pin is usually held in place. That pin will be held, where is it? There it is. That pin will be held in place. You can't even see that. Wow, that's not good. That pin will be held in place by the wheel. So once I put the wheel back on, that'll be okay. I'll just take this last screw out of here using a hex driver. This is a 2.5 mil. Look, there's no rule to what gets used where on these cars. This is a range of spanners between 1.5 and 3 mils, and that's generally sort of what you get. I've got some. Oh, my battery's charged. How about that? It's that one, right? Because while you're watching this video, excuse me. While you're watching this video, I'm charging batteries because once I'm finished here, I want to actually drive this car. Now, that was up the other way, wasn't it? And just pay attention. That's the other. So it's important to work out which way things go. The heck have I done here? Oh yeah, that's good. Yep. Okay. One of the things that you can do is take a photo before you start. The other way to do this is to look at the manual. So I'd probably, if you're beginning, I would do both. I would take a photo or several photos from different angles, and then also have a look at the manual. So what the manual doesn't tell you is the order things go back in, and some things are a bit trial and error. So you won't know until you've, just like me, you've tried to put something back together and it's up the wrong way. I may have edited that bit out. I had this up the wrong way a second ago. That happens, whoops, and see I'm trying to poke that axle in the wrong way while I'm talking, which isn't great. Now that axle's gone back in, it's in all the way. I'm just going to push it to where it should be, go back and get this screw that's holding it in, use the Phillips head, lock it into place. We're very close to being finished here. Fantastic, I hear you say. This little screw holds it from dropping out, holds that pin from dropping out. I'm going to get rid of this broken bit up here, and that is another, that's the same, that is a 2.5 hex I'm guessing, and yes, that's correct as it turns out. All this stuff is made to be quickly fixed. I generally don't try and fix things out and about. I'll bring them back here. It's just too difficult. You'll need too many tools, and it's generally dusty and sandy, which shouldn't affect most things, but you wouldn't want to take an engine apart, that's for sure. So this one goes straight back in, and we're very close to being finished here. Through it goes. Looking good. Oh, they are. Okay, so here's a bit of a trap for unwary players. The carrier that I've put back is assembled, and I've actually taken out 2 bolts that I didn't need to take out of the top and bottom of here, taking that apart, and of course now I have 2 bolts left over. So that threw me for a second, because I was thinking I had bolts left over, so therefore I hadn't finished the job. But in fact the job is finished, and those bolts belong in the old part. So that was a bit of a trick. One of the other thing, there's no adjustment required here, because the adjustment's exactly the same. There was nothing adjusted here, so I can actually put this wheel straight back on and be happy that the wheel, the camber, everything is exactly as it was on the old, on a previous setting. So if it was working before and nothing's out of place, then it should be working again now. So that's a very quick, simple repair. Tighten that up. So that has to be pretty tight. You don't want it to be so tight that it's going to be stripped out. So I would take it till it stops turning, and then take it probably another centimetre at the most. So you would bring the spanner to where it's tight, and then sort of bring it to there, sort of thing. But just be careful not to strip that out. It has to be firm but not over tight. So that's that done. It's all working again. Looks great. I've got my batteries ready to go. I can head back out. It's all good. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. I just wanted to very quickly demonstrate to you that, you know, you break your car, it can be fixed, you get the parts, and you just sit down and take your time. Take your time, work your way through it, get the manual if you have to, and if you need to come back to it, then do. It doesn't have to be fixed all in one go. I just ripped through that then, but don't leave your car sitting on a shelf just because, you know, you think it's too hard. I mean, the worst that can happen is you'll take it apart and you'll have some trouble, but sometimes you need to come back to it. Maybe you need to have a think about it. If you've taken maybe a gearbox apart and you can't get it back together, just take your time and go through it. Take it, have another look at it, have a look at a manual, look at something on YouTube, Google that specific build, and the chances are is that someone will show you how to do it, that exact part that needs to be fixed. So I recommend that you do that, and don't get disheartened, and make sure you keep going, because it is a lot of fun and you will learn stuff. Okay, good luck. Bye.
Hey, don't forget to subscribe and watch these crazy videos too. Stupid fast, awesome.